Insomniac Games' The Unspoken was easily one of the titles that got our attention at Oculus Connect 3 back last fall. It looked amazing, including how it leveraged the touch controllers. It's been poised to be a must-buy for Rift owners, but as much as we want to put some backing into that statement, let's first see what kind of substance is backing this title. Well, you think there would be a deep storyline here, like its previous game in Edge of Nowhere, but this is totally on the opposite spectrum. The Unspoken is a bit more reserved in its storytelling. In fact, it plays more to its strength of being a multiplayer-driven game first, since there's no real story behind the single-player campaign. Essentially, it's set in various parts of Chicago, and you're just dueling against other magicians. We don't know if our character is on the side of evil or good. Either way, we're just dueling against our opponent using our various spells and magic to defeat them. Despite the lack of substance behind its storyline, it does a phenomenal job with its graphics. It's one of the more visually compelling games we've seen for the Rift, blending detailed environments with spectacular lighting that comes from all the magic spells. There's no shortage of visual flair either, evident in how we summon these giant golems to help dispose our enemies. Seriously, the graphics are just awe-inspiring, and it helps to validate the enormity of the game. The game makes it feel like we're a wizard, a summoner, or even a mage of some sort. It practically makes us feel we're in those roles. At the core of it all, it's a player versus player game that has two opponents dueling against one another. It doesn't disappoint in delivering some sweet action, courtesy of gestures performed using the touch controllers. From shooting out fireballs from our hands to casting complex spells, the game manages to mix up a decent amount of interaction to make the game even more believable. Now, depending on what class you select, attacks will differ. For example, an Anarchist will cast fireballs, while a Kineticist will use telekinesis to throw projectiles from the environment. In building up to even greater things, you'll unleash spells from artifacts. And we gotta say, the touch controllers are used ingeniously to cast them. One of them in particular is hammering down on an anvil to forge a spear. Another cool one has us actually using a marker to draw a pattern to cast this protective wall. The spells have good variety with equally different gestures to cast them, which makes the game so fun to play. Well, the thing is that the game as a whole becomes rather repetitive. This is arguably one of the game's weakest points, as there's really not a whole lot of depth when you master all the mechanics. It's cool casting those spells using the touch controllers the first few times, but by the 50th or so time, you'll realize just like us that it simply becomes repetitive. Fortunately, we didn't feel sick or ill playing through the game. This could be due to a combination of things, like the optimizations in the game, the responsiveness of the tracking system, and its generally smooth performance in VR. It's set in a first-person perspective, so this adds more to the immersion. The only thing missing here is more movement on our part. Not the spell casting, but other things like being forced to duck, looking behind us, or even walking a little bit more within our predefined space within the Guardian system. By itself, the Oculus Touch controllers would have a difficult time selling themselves to consumers, but Insomniac Games' The Unspoken delivers on the goods in being a showcase title. It'll have you amazed by its unconventional gameplay that heavily leverages a variety of motion gestures for you to cast spells. Adding to the game's $30 cost is its gorgeous graphics and smooth VR performance, so it's the kind of game that no doubt leaves a good impression on us. While the majority of our feelings about the game are positive, it does indeed become a bit repetitive dueling against opponents using the same spells time after time. Now don't let that dissuade you though, just because for the price of owning the game, it's still worth the investment experiencing one of the best launch titles for the Oculus Touch controllers. And there you go guys, that's our review of The Unspoken. A lot of cool spell casting in this game, so if you're into that kind of thing, definitely check it out. So if you guys want to learn more about this game or anything else I talked about in the video, check out our website, VRSource, your source for all kinds of reality.